behoorlijk.
Ja, die Nederlands. Die staat in Nederland.
Die hebben ook in Nederlands. Je hebt het waarschijnlijk
Nee.
niet.
Nee, hij staat in de trainingslocatie. Wordt niet echt ingezet. Dat was mijn laatste project. Ik heb met mijn eigen contract die ik uiteindelijk in Nederland gekregen. Allemaal Amerikaanse constructies. Share producent. Ik moet van het hotel heeft al ik als project Amerikaanse grenzen. En die wordt voor ons geheim brengen. Ik wil hem meekrijgen naar Oslo, waar het is even een conference is.
Niels. Niels. Die zit bij je stad. Maar is dat wel van een
Heel sterk.
ja. Ik wil wel eens even een lijntje bij mij zitten.
Ja.
Want ik weet van Henry over. Reeds gewoon zoals break, maar dan met een S-platen.
Ja. Reeks. Romeo, Echo,
Ook ik.
Bravo, Sierra.
Oh, oké. Ja.
Dat is een bio-analyse.
Ja, want eigenlijk doen we dus trainingen, of althans de dienstraad. Eigenlijk detecteer je alleen met hem. En ga je met de support ga je volgens een beetje interviewen.
Correct.
Ja.
Theodor heeft het ook al getest. En die hebben een fout gemaakt. Want het apparaat is in feite gemaakt om levend materiaal te meten. Zij hebben afgelopen materialen gegeven op het apparaat. Die heeft het eigenlijk nog niet gedaan. Het lot is afgelopen. Dat is toch.
Ja, maar ik vind het wel bijzonder dat zoals ik zeg, die moesten terug, die pretenderen heel te kunnen. Nou ja, dat ze hebben wel geen specialistische kunnen laten waren, ze hebben geen Nederlandse mening. En de LCD's, ik weet Nederland heeft 2 LCD's, die en 3. Maar ja, ze hebben van de ene heeft er in zich nooit.
Wees het niet.
Sorry?
Wees het niet.
Nee, ik ben goed toevallig en ik heb hem altijd kunnen leggen voor de naamstad. Dus ik ben er niet achtergekomen van wat ze zijn waar ze dit technologisch gebruiken. Maar ook personeel zijn ze gewoon ingezet. En ze zijn wel bezig met de aanschaf van LCD-4's voor, ik dacht, alle wat we doen, maar dat doen. Dus er komt een mooie aanbesteding bij de Defensie voor de LCD.
Ja, maar de Defensie heeft er veel meer detectie ook natuurlijk.
Ja,
die gewoon nog experimenteel klaar is gewoon.
Ja, ik heb het. Ja, want het was toen hebben we 5 minuten. Maar het gaat om GEM, dan de AP4C. En dan de GEM, met verrekking en apparaat.
Ja.
En want die doet werkelijk alles waar dan. Of hier moet je oplopen, dus weten met 360. Ja, dan is het een beetje gebruiken.
Ja, kijk, als je een vast positief hebt dan wil je het toch wel even bevestigen.
Nou ja, en dan vind ik inderdaad, als je 3 of 4 of 5 over nieuw kan praten. En dan ook als je het niet van dieren.
Net.
Dat niet. Maar
eigenlijk was dat binnenland van België toen gewerkt.
Ik denk dat het nog wel zo. Ja, precies.
En die kan je op een display zetten.
Ja,
dat ding is wat ouder hoor. Ja, je kunt het dan neerzetten.
Nou, dat was ook een bedoeling. Voor mij was het vooral met die exposure, die FCS. Maar België heeft een mobiel.
Ja, die heeft wel een mobiel maken. En daar zijn ook een beetje in de vaststelling van de mobiel. Je hebt al veel even voor je. En die idee dat die maakt. Dan zie je dan wel.
Ja, nou, ik denk er zijn ook contact geweest met België bijvoorbeeld. Want ze zijn natuurlijk ook altijd regelmatig weer bij elkaar gelegd. Dus wij zijn ook heel erg bewust van het stukje cybersecurity, wat we zeggen. Want we weten gewoon door de medewijs, ik weet dat dat medegeest is, wij heel spicht op welke programma's waar we studenten wel gebruiken, wat niet. En dat we gewoon die dingen mondeling doen en niet via allerlei programma's.
Ga je een paar keer vliegtechnologie?
Vliegtechnologie?
Ja, we hebben natuurlijk een Eindhoven bij een heel mooi bedrijf wat met licht zijn. Met licht berichten over zijn. En dat moet je installeren.
Dat is, nee, ik zeg niet zo diep voor mij.
Wifi of zo werkt het. is net als wifi, maar dan niet veel.
Ja, ik ben
Maakt het heel goed.
ja, dat heeft het goede kop. Maar zijn dus bij de wel geweest. Kijk, hoe zijn het met de postkaart geweest? En de alles van concept, zie ik moeilijk. Dus er was niks. Ja, ze geloven dat het niet. Ik geloof echt wel dat onze vrienden uit het oosten wat willen gaan prikken en doen. Ik kan echt niet op het gebied van die leuke sport of kennis van leuke van na in het stukje.
Ja, maar het kan wel in de site zitten, hè, dat wat fake nieuws komt.
Ja.
En die analyzers zijn net zo belangrijk om te geven dat er niks in de hand is.
Nee, precies dat. We zijn
Dus
wel.
wat dat betreft kun je de EVM-map neerzetten.
Nee,
En je
nee,
kunt 5 motten dan aangeven van dat ben ik.
Ja.
Zeggen dan.
We lopen gewoon in er wordt een extra netwerk aangelegd met een soort van elektronische meuden maar waar ze in de alarm dan hoeven we dus ook in de duinen, dan moeten we inmiddels ook in de duinen steken. Dus dan weet je dat er ergens iets gaat en je kunt zo ook een soort van crime detecteren dat je weet van daar vandaan en daar vandaan.
Ja.
Maar dan is de volkszaal.
Die distance detectie in Ordnance ook niet zijn.
Nee, maar die zijn
Dus je
eigenlijk.
krijgt heel veel paspoorts die voor wisselwolk kunnen.
Ja, dat is het voordeel. Het zijn zo'n detectoren als in de Nederlandse havenslangen.
Ja.
En dus op deze manier gebruiken ze het als straatnetwerk, kunnen ze inprikken, kunnen alarms en op het moment dat die alarm gaat, dus de mensen achter, die kunnen detecteren of dat inderdaad interpreteren of het inderdaad bijvoorbeeld diesel gaat,
Ja.
of iets anders zoals die vuilnis vindt. Dan moeten we dus wel dat van op worden.
Ja.
Maar de mensen die in staat te detecteren, die zeggen, oh ja, dat is wel. Maar wij hebben de bevoegdheid niet om zo'n stuk te komen. Dat zie je wel. Maar de stad komen, dat zijn incidentenstammen bijvoorbeeld. Maar we zeggen ook, ja, nee, daar hebben we niet detecteren. Dus die detectie ook. En daar hebben wij dan wel. Dus daar kunnen we elkaar gewoon in vinden. Dus ondertussen laten we heel snel te kunnen zeggen, er is inderdaad niks.
Ja. Het partner van Machtel is sterk inderdaad. Die heeft niet de coördinatie over na te vullen. Is sterk inderdaad.
Ja.
Hij is de partner van Machtel verloren.
Dus als ik de naam hoor, maar ik ben nog achter dat ook. Ik heb een expert gezeten en ik zit nu in een andere groep. Ik weet niet hoe het en dan hoor ik dingen vanuit de Vinci. En die weet ik of mij zelf dat die eigen uitzenden.
Nee, niet op.
En dan hoor je dus inderdaad.
Ik ben er niet meer. Ik ben oud.
Nee, het is echt ik denk dat het niet waar, maar. En dan vind je zo, ja, dan heel veel zijn er die wel jullie ook van hebben gezegd dat het stress van is.
Ja, weet ik een beetje meer daarvan in. Ja, dat staat niet. Ja, dat zit toch niet dat is raar. Het is in het land staan. Misschien is het maar
en nou, het opschoven, je wil je een auto wassen en nog veel staat de bank bij de in de verstand bij. Ja, kijk, sorry. Ja, dat is waar. Heel simpel. Hij is niet bang voor. Die heeft de landbouw gekregen. Nee, soms voor
Als we hier ook maar
je voor
nou ja,
formulieren.
ja, we moesten met veel alles dus dan in dit jaar dus zo. Iedereen is er ook bij ons als iedereen doet zo niet een beetje we daar een sectie maken en op basis daarvan zeggen we uit de aanstelling implicaties hebben. Dat vind ik iets snel. En dat ik zo met referenties. Leuk, ja, leuk.
Jij moet natuurlijk ook de hoogste maar ik heb het wel eens. Het gaat steeds nog in het
sowieso het zeg maar zo zo wanneer ingesteld een beetje de vlucht van dus ik ben niet aan de land, want gewoon van Piet, deze hebben niet van de is maar goed staat. En nu is die zijn dat is weet elkaar. Ja, ik zeg nou bijvoorbeeld, ja,
want anders heb ik die niet klaar.
nee.
Ma se passava le altre, i graduati, medio 40 anni.
Per la media?
La media dei graduati in università.
Sapore di più. Voi differenti, io poi.
No, i graduati sono una piccola. Una piccola, diciamo, la prima categoria.
Non sei così?
No.
Non sei così.
Non c'ho
Ja,
Let's go, Disha. Let's go, Berlino. Where are you from?
Ispettore campo.
from the Netherlands, but
Huh?
where are you from?
You.
Yeah,
Where are you from?
I'm retired military civilian specialist from the Dutch Armed Forces. And I'm still giving lectures at the NATO School in Noord-Holland. NATO Center Bachelor in Viscov.
Stayed in America last year for manual clothing. Course there in course.
You were in one of my lectures as well? Oh no.
Romana? Yeah.
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 But Romana, he worked in this NBC school.
Yeah, I know Roman, he's in Rotterdam now.
No, the director of the course was
From Czech,
different Colonel.
from Czech Republic.
Yeah.
I know that guy as well.
Yeah. And for people, the people was Checo. And I don't know, nuclear USA,
Yeah,
biologic Deutschland. Was a man. Sympathetic.
I know.
Deutschland people.
I know. And then you had also the trip to Munich to see the laboratories over there, or not?
No,
No.
I don't remember. I think no.
Okay. Just.
But the course. And I think next time.
And a nice place to be, you know.
Yeah. No, I come back for intelligence.
Aha, good.
The resting.
That's in the academy upstairs.
The director is Roman. I don't know.
Yeah.
At this moment.
Yeah. When is this course?
What?
When is the course you are going to attend? Huh?
No understand.
The Intel course.
In the course, intelligent course.
And when? Date.
Open America.
Yeah, but when?
I don't know.
Okay.
I check the
Yeah.
shuttle for the next year.
Okay.
I am interested.
Yeah. Actually, sheets already. Yeah.
I stayed away in this in the NBC. I worked at the Paulians.
Only.
Yeah, only received the Italian.
Oh, I've done more. I've also done mission safety. Mission safety for the Dutch Armed Forces I've implemented. And I've been clinical chemist for the Royal Navy Hospital. So I did more aspects.
Well, in Italy, you must particular, you do a chemical, biological, radiological. No, not only branch.
No, you have to be.
Whole range.
Yeah, I've been two deployments in Afghanistan where I managed the blood bank in Helmand in Afghanistan in the Helmand province. So I was in Camp Bastion
Is up.
with the and also with the other mission, the offensive mission.
I don't like.
Yeah. And in Camp Bastion, I
Typical people.
was in Camp Bastion 2 times, and then also in Mazar Sharif in the north. I've been also deployed.
You stayed there also in the Kosovo?
No.
Lebanon?
No, not that old. I started in 1982. I did some missions in Africa and also in the Middle East, but that was more not really fighting.
In Africa, I don't know.
It's kind of dangerous
Dangerous
for some aspects, yes.
for the
And unreliable, because I do not like human soldiers. They do not have any moral. Two things. I do not like child shooting at me, and I do not like people who have no religion. Because when you have no religion, there's no moral. And it does not matter whether it's one or the other religion. Religious people have still more feeling. Isn't it? Okay, yeah. I would like to start. Well, I think I'm going to start now. Look outside. Okay. Thank you for those who are back. I didn't know I was such an exhausting course, but now I'm going to for the next lecture. The consequence management following a biological incident will be faster because when you respond, you have to do it fast in all these aspects. And you have CBN and hazardous materials. In fact, the approach, and from Fabricate, you know, it is similar. But sometimes the jargon is different. And also how they describe it. Hazmat is a large portfolio of chemical, biological, explosive, radiological, physical, and mechanical hazards, their combinations. The mechanical is, of course, not in the CBRN and CBRN weapons of mass destruction for military purposes. But also when you have a new emerging disease, I see it as a biological threat as well. And as a chemical threat, I also see it, even when it is not designed as medical mass destruction, but it is dangerous for a huge group of people. So there is a difference, and also in accidents, the police is often in the lead, but that depends on the country. in the Netherlands, the police will be in the lead when there's a civilian incident in CBRN. In some other countries, it is civil defense. In other countries, it is the military who are in lead. In some countries, the fire brigade is in lead, like in Germany. So it is a complete day of lectures to discuss all this. I have given lectures in Germany at the Bad Nauenaar Center for First Responders. And then you see also that even in one country there's a difference. Because I got discussions in the audience that they did it far better in Hessen than they did it in the north of Germany. And in Munich, of course, everything was better. So even in one country, there might be different standards. How to do your approach to hazmat or CBRN incidents. And in this, it's very important, this phase, pre-incident phase to the operation phase. You can have a warning. A warning example is the sarin attack in Tokyo in the underground. Why was it that they had so quickly already identified that it was sarin? Nobody knows? It is because Ayum Singh used sarin already against some lawyers in a part of Tokyo. And some were killed. He spread the sarin from a van which has a pipe outside and could focus stream of air infected with sarin into that building. And a long time the police in Tokyo didn't know what happened and what it was. They had some experts from the UK, I know him personally, who from the ESDL, who at the end identified it as sarin. And because this was already done, then suddenly the underground attack in Tokyo was there, and then they saw the same diagnostics. That's the reason why they really fast were thinking, oh, this is sarin, they could do the right measures. Only pity was that a lot of patients or infected people went to the hospital, so the hospital was not usable anymore for normal patients. But that's also a lesson learned. When you have such an attack like a sarin attack, bring it to a sports facility or something like that, where you can give all the people the same treatment because they are all the same infection or the same contamination. So there's no cross-contamination. You can do it in one hall. In a hospital, you have to take care that one patient does not contaminate the other patient. Also lessons learned from Tokyo. And what was it? The story? The warning. And because the warning, the operation could act faster. And therefore it's so important to have your intel in place. Intel in place that recognize that a criminal organization is producing ricin. Know who is buying what, for what purposes. That was this FBI list. And what knowledge is where is present. So when you have an overview of dual-use products bought, knowledge present, facility present, and intentions. When that is fitting, you have a potential warning signal. And when you have this on a place where also the operations will start and act, so in the operational center, and that's an organization which is in all countries different and mostly also confidential, then you can act faster. When you have a huge international effect, huge international event, where there might be interest of some elements to disrupt it, you have to do your intel very tight on all these potential disruptive elements and then analyze what they could do with the abilities they have. That is a lesson learned from this slide. And indeed, a lot of things are done, invented, without general knowledge. In Rhodesia, in 1975 to 1980, there was a chemical and biological warfare program active to wipe out some ethnic groups. Very interesting book to read. And there you see that poison from snakes, scorpions, from snakes, scorpions, and frogs are used and weaponized. And in fact, it's very old-fashioned because the arrow and arrow and bow, yeah. Yeah, the arrow and bow, the poisoned arrow was already biological warfare because the arrow was dipped in the poison of a snake, of a frog or scorpion. So, and that can be used also in other creative ways, and that is Glenn Krosnick's describing. Wouter Basson from South Africa in the apartheid time also developed a lot of offensive biological and chemical weapons for use in case of an ethnic civil war. And all these things which are developed over here, we also should take in our PDCA because it can happen. The knowledge is there. And from these countries, sometimes you also have people who are aware or even experienced in the method. It's not that long ago. And might act as a contractor or just as a political motivated person in a place where you do not want. And when this happens, the toxins or chemical agents, you do not have much time to act. Ricin is over here. You have to act in 20 minutes to 2 hours. 20 minutes. So in 20 minutes, you see somebody falling ill, something which is absolutely abnormal. You have to diagnose, you have to confirm, and then you are going to act to prevent or to treat. Because anyway, there will be others affected by the agent as well. So you need a lot of capacity to give the treatment. So you have to think beforehand already that you have a facility where you can help these people and that the facility is available. And that all in 20 minutes. An operational challenge. So, first responders within 10 minutes arriving. The second role of first responders, so more specialized, arriving in 50 minutes. Civil support teams will be far later. And that is only for consequence management and to clean up the facility. You must also be prepared that within 8 hours you have your decon system in place. Preferable earlier, but I know that in most countries within 8 hours to have your decon system in place is already a challenge. And then you have those diseases with lag time, where the people are getting the symptoms of the illness afterwards. Q fever, anthrax, cholera, Also, do not neglect cholera. Also, do not neglect norovirus. Norovirus is also a virus which you can modify and can be very aggressive and angry. Chikungunya, which gets more attention, and this is done a covered biological attack. And this is the other one, where you have the chemical and with the toxins far earlier the symptoms. That's also a consideration when you are planning an event, an international event, where there's a lot of attention and some political or terrorist groups want to give a signal that they disagree or whatever. Then your medical care, hot gold zone. In fact, that's the same as you got from the others. I think there's another lecture on this where you, and it was also presented this morning, that you have decon lanes first and then go to the medical care. And then the medical care is given outside the hot and warm zone. You can do preparedness over here, and some of the medical care is already given in the hot zone to prevent deadly effects from the symptoms. I'll come back to this later because you need to do some actions before you bring the patients in a decon lane and then bring to medical care. Yeah. Public health is very important, and the first hours are important, and all the relevant information you should share. Because otherwise, when you keep things secret, afterwards it will backfire. Be as open as possible, and be also honest that sometimes you do not know. When there is a new disease, a new emerging disease, and you really do not know, you can tell you do not know. You are the expert, and when you do not know, it's new, and you cannot be accused that you are not knowing what is not known yet. But sometimes in countries they want to have the expert who has all the knowledge in his head and will always tell something even when it is not true. Wasn't there such a man in Iraq telling, oh, we have to save countries, and behind him there were bombs falling? Those stories you should not have in CBN because it will backfire. Evidence of documentation, very important, always afterwards. Because when you do not document all the samples you have taken, and at a certain moment something is missing or is not reproducible, then you will fail for the courts. And that would be a pity. Successful attack, it's CBN weapons, and for a court, it's gone. Think about the brother of who was attacked at the airport in Malaysia, and an Indonesian woman pulled the nerve agent in his face. And yeah, when you are not documenting this in a proper way, the woman would get off, and then also the man who gives the order, you never will find it, and then you're lost. That's big. In consequence management, the public health has an important role. Depends also whether it is national, regional, or worldwide. And worldwide, and when we have a pandemic, the World Health Organization is an important aspect. And in the worldwide support, Médecins Sans Frontières is one of those medical care NGOs who are very active, and they have, in the Ebola time, they had a PPE which is quite different from the military PPE, but it works. And we have given training to them for the donning and doffing procedure. I always working with partners because with what you had this morning, putting off your gloves. At that moment, you already infect this ring. So another should pull off, and when taking out coat from this, there's also not work. Somebody has to pull it from the outside. All kind of procedures. It's also, of course, depending on what kind of materials and suits are used. So common sense is very important, but the donning, you can train good, but the doping procedure is the most important in this, because there you have the biggest risk to get infections, unintentional infections. And with the Ebola, we have also seen that with the doping procedure, so to do it off, to take it out, was the critical phase. Quarantine versus isolation. When something is not airborne, isolation is less important, but mouth mask is perhaps practical. But on the other hand, also consider that a mouth mask is a collector of microbes, and you get other diseases from that. Bring one or two infected persons by a container like this is optimal, but when you have mass casualties, this is of course not possible. This is a picture from Liberia, where Ebola was in a district of this country. They called it a slum, but it was a district of the capital, Monrovia, and they just closed it. And people who are not sick, they said, "Oh, I want to go out because there are sick people over here." This gives disruption to your population and a lot of unrest. I think it was a wrong decision to close some districts in the country, of in the town. How to prevent this depends on the culture, depends on the situation. In the Netherlands, I once, before the outbreaks, it was of Ebola even, in that period, just before Ebola outbreak, I had a careport initiative, a proposal, where when a plane could land with patients with having neurovirus, for instance, of that they are going to a regional airport in Eelde, in the north of the Netherlands. And then in that airport, there are big halls where the patient should be treated. And that was all designed, and even the airport of Eelde is also the regional hospital, the regional ambulance post for the academic hospital in Groningen. So that was a place where I thought that would be the place to bring when an aircraft has a lot of patients, to bring them safe. And this regional airport is also one of the airports which can also have heavy carriers, because it is on the Hondsrug, a sandy area in the north of the Netherlands, so far away from the dense populated west. But unfortunately, it didn't get the applause of the government. They said, "Come to Soesterberg." And I said, "Welcome to the military museum," and I was not popular at that moment. To know, Soesterberg is an old military airfield in the Netherlands, which was used for bringing people to the crisis hospital in Utrecht, which is nearby. But then you need transport over the road, which is not to be preferred. And secondly, the airport was in the meantime closed and transformed to a museum. But government and those who are practical active, there's a gap. We have to close that gap sometimes as well. And now I'm retired, I can say it. Guaranteeing potential adverse consequences. This is what I just mentioned in Liberia, but it's also applicable in other places. Depends, but keep it in mind. To have a quarantine too strict has also its threats, which we have learned from China. Because when you are for a longer time in too sterile environment, you get susceptible for other diseases like the flu. And that's also not what you want. And then you have the psychological response to a public health emergency. A lot of lessons learned you can get. Anticipation for future events with the lessons learned. Prophylactic measures. How to develop faster the mRNA vaccines with a new unknown disease. Prioritizing resources. And very important, which I already mentioned earlier, reaction to misinformation. In Africa, Medicine Sans Frontières was attacked because they should bring the Ebola, and the fear was also given by an earlier incident in Liberia where a laboratory where they tested vaccines for HIV on monkeys, very secret and very close to the environment, to the population. Nobody was allowed to go there, and not giving the information to those people who are living around it. Yeah, it creates rumors, and then you get unrest, and that's not what you want. So communication, very important. Keep it ongoing. Yeah, you get some weird ideas. Is China safer after Fukushima? Yes, of course it was. But Fukushima was indeed not an explosion of a reactor. It was that the power supply for the cooling of the reactor was falling out by the tsunami, and therefore the reactor got hot. So it was not a failure of the reactor, in fact. Yeah, design, yes. But be realistic, know what it is. I also once got a question from Belgium. They have at the coast in Belgium and the south, Dunkirk also is the name, a reactor, a nuclear reactor, that's on the French side. And when there's a tsunami here, could that happen here as well? Well, I mentioned the North Sea has not enough, or the canal over there has not enough water to generate a tsunami. Be realistic. But when you exaggerate, you can get a lot of fake news, and this might be faster than the truth because it's a more spicy, more interesting story. So, also in the aftermath in the crisis, educate, coordinate, and be sure that everybody knows what happens. We call it in the military the hot debrief, that you can react in your aggression, your depression, your anger that it happened to you, that you can get rid of it. Very important to this psychological aftercare when something happens. So you have to take this also in account when you are in the preparation of the safety and security of an event. That when you have in place this medical care, that you also have the psychological care already prepared for in case something happens. Yeah, these are the after a disaster, what is trauma, sadness, concentration difficulties, fatigue, edges pains, and all these complaints. When you have a hot debrief, you take away it very fast. and you inform in a correct way, you do not leave questions, it's optimal. When you are not doing this, you're not having this communication in place, you will get these problems in your population. Medical triage is in fact the same as the normal medical triage, and that's already what I explained, that you are giving the most of the care to the group, and not that somebody who's almost dying are giving care, because the effect with another person who will be cured after the care is more effective. It's the typical standard medical triage, where you have T1 for urgent, also severe, T2 urgent, delayed, so you can give delayed medical care with the T3, and toxicity, then you have to take care. So, and T1 is severe, immediate, when there's respiratory distress, because then you can kill because you cannot get oxygen. So typical standard triage, and I think it's also elsewhere in your course that you get this topic. Time is critical, and especially in the contaminated environment, and also time because when you are working, especially in some warmer areas, tropical areas, it's hot inside and you get exhausted in a short time. This is with the incident management. Kim Jong Nam I already mentioned, with this Indonesian woman who put some nerve gas in front of his mouth, was taken away in a proper way, and afterwards the journalists were making pictures of the place, because the place was not immediately decontaminated. Makes also sense because it's a minor amount of substance which was used. So one casualty, normal procedures, CBN contamination is unlikely. 2 casualties, then have more caution, because then it might be also that the area is more infected, and 3 casualties or more, then you have indeed the procedure where you have to clean the whole area. So when there is only one victim, like over here, yeah, it is not too complicated. And when you have more casualties, it gets more intense, and more people will be involved from the responders. Hard teams and merit teams is different in some countries, I've learned. Medical incident officer is responsible for the merit teams, and the hard teams, they do also the triage, and they have the PPE on to do this triage. In fact, the bottom line is recognize, avoid, and isolate. This is the Skripal family, father and daughter, with the Novichok contamination, and how it was managed by the British public health and police. Deliberate release incidents happened quite often in the past. I think I'm going a little bit fast, because I hope, I will do that. I'm going somewhat fast. Deliberate release incidents, most of you probably know the anthrax letters, the Bachmann-Ranish, who infected the menu because he wanted to have some voting influence, and so many things have happened. When such an incident happens, safe transport is absolutely important. There are regulations. IATA has described it in a proper way. Please pay attention to this, and please be prepared that when you are sampling and bring the sample in a container, that it is already in the right container for the right follow-up. Do not repack afterwards, because then you have another step of risk. And that's not what you want. So be prepared in this. So have the right materials there. And pragmatic solutions are not allowed by the official IATA regulations. I have seen so many disappointing transports of materials during my time in Africa that I cannot stress this enough. Use proper packing material for your samples. Toxins is of course a biological rise in albumin, you know it. This is used in the criminal circuits. Be prepared for that. This is how it's produced in the criminal circuits. It's in handbooks. You can find it in the Poisonous Handbook from Maxwell Hutchinson on the internet. But the Al Qaeda manual has the same recipe for processing and production of ricin. And then, yeah, you have to detect it. You can these detectors, you know, detectors, the PCR for confirming it. The military I already mentioned the BioWatch program. And when there is really something, you need the proper ambulances in which you can transport the victims without contaminating the ambulance. This is a German exercise. This is one way. The better way is to put the victims in such containers, so you can transport the victim inside the container and bring them also safe into the hospital. And in the hospital, in the treatment room or hospital or sports facility, wherever you have located this, you open, and then the healthcare workers have their PPE on again. This is from France. They have a detecting tool used by the Paris Fire Brigade. The spot decontamination, decon, early toxicon, early antidotes, that is like the naloxone when you have fentanyl, extensive decontamination with water, and transport to hospital. This is of course to limit internal contamination, to prepare care system, save preventable deaths by the early antidote, protect care system, and to complete care in hospital or the healthcare facility which is appointed for this crisis, which can be a sports facility. This is, yeah, the core how in France it is educated, and in the field you can train, and you must train a lot to do the right procedures, because when you are in PPE, it's different. You have difficulties to push a button, you have difficulties to use a syringe, you have difficulties to put a plaster. Everything is difficult. So you have to train. In this case, clean the face, decontaminate the face with such a decon towel, which is MRSA, nee? To decon, that's the American towel. You have more brands of these towels, and after you have cleaned the face, you put on a mask, and then you can bring the victim to the warm zone, and then after in the cold zone. But it's important to put the mask on and disinfect under the mask with this towel, because during transport the victim otherwise would get more contamination, which is unnecessary. Those are practical things in the procedure. Airway support, there are also when the victim needs oxygen, there are special devices for this. At the staging area, you see again how it is done. And again, with gloves, doing all these procedures, it's a challenge. You have to train this. It's the emergency decontamination again before you put on the mask. And then into the ambulance in this in an isolation bed. So then you do not need to isolate the ambulance from the inside. That's how they did it in Germany, with covering the inside of the ambulance and the victim open. These are all kinds of portable isolation units you have. And that's how it happened in Africa. Open air, but it was Ebola. Healthcare workers have PPE, and the victim is transported. In the intensive care, the container is open, and then you can give the care, but then the healthcare workers have to wear PPE again, and preferably PPE with an air inlet, so they get cool air, so they do not overheat during the procedure, because you get very warm in such things. And the same PPE which is used in laboratories where it can work longer should be used for intensive care at that moment as well. And therefore you have to prepare again. And also for the last journey, when somebody diseases, you have also to take care that you are not contaminating the soil. I encountered this in Monrovia, at Disco Hill. It was a hill near Monrovia, near Boston, where the groundwater was a little bit lower and there was more dry soil on top of it. There was a disco, that's why it was Disco Hill. And this was claimed for burying the people who were diseased from Ebola, because it should be at least 1 meter deep, not to get the virus or contaminated microbes into the vegetation. And on the other hand, it should also not infect the soil water. So that's things you have to arrange as well. That was the last journey. And I think that trained military reservists are very important in the CBRN response. They know the civilian world, they can communicate with civilians more easily compared to career military people. And I already mentioned several times civil military interaction, civil military cooperation. And therefore I think that military reservists are very practical, because how often we have a CBRN incident, not that often. And so you can call them into duty at the moment it's necessary. And that ends my lecture. Then I will continue with one case about the what I do. Yeah, I do that because it's a nice story about a Corona story. And then I have a short introduction for a case which you might give me. some advice how to act on this incident. Yeah, that's a nice thing at the end. Shall I continue immediately or do you want a short break? Continue. I'm continuing. Oh, then I have to bring the right. Yeah?
Continuation.
Okay, because I have to change my slide set, so you can for coffee. Oh. Yeah, Lungo, please. During the lecture, he was awake. He just fell asleep after that. It's a sign of exhaustion. Ja, het is een heleboel stof. Maar net na mijn afsluiting viel hij neer. Hij zat de hele tijd er tegenaan te vechten.
Die ondankbaarheid zitten. Op de met de nieuws accepteren en dan.
Nee, daar let ik wel op. Dat is allemaal zoet spul, hè?
Ja, dat nog een keer.
Ach, je is Sint-Maarten geweest of zo.
Sorry.
Je komt niet uit het noorden van het land.
Nee, ik kom het noorden uit het zuiden, maar ik was 3 of 4 toen we naar boven moeten uitgieten.
Oké.
Dus,
Nee, ik kom uit Oost-Groningen en daar
Oh,
ken je
ja,
het Sint-Maartenfeest. Ken je dat? Dit zijn typisch van de Sint-Maartenverhaal.
ik denk dat ik snoep in zijn auto ligt. Hij heeft een steentje van 4 en we hebben er 1 of 2. En
Ja.
als mijn kinderen weten wat snoep, dan dus hij ligt in mijn auto ook. Dus ja.
Slecht. Ah, great.
I think
Okay.
I got the sugar right though, because I didn't ask.
I do not need sugar, but it's okay. So
But I put it, I'm sorry.
no problem.
Als je de beste question.